Hi, everyone. Today I'm here with Ruslan Desyatnikov. Almost 30 years in the field, he is a globally recognized QA leader, entrepreneur, and innovator in software testing. He is the CEO of QA Mentor and started Human Intelligence Software Testing Movement, which is HIST in short, which is an approach that places the human critical thinking, intuition, and creativity to the center of the quality process. Over the course of his career, Ruslan has advised Fortune 500 technology leaders, served more than 500 globally clients, and earned over 100 industry awards. This company has become one of the most recognized independent QA firms worldwide. Author, speaker, and investor and coach, Ruslan continues this mission to raise the value of the QA and ensuring QA professionals are recognized as a strategic experts, not just technical resource. So Ruslan, thank you for being here, and I'm excited for you to join me in this adventure.
Thank you so much, Mamado, for inviting me to your show. I keep an eye on multiple different episodes with some of the experts in the field, and I really, enjoyed those discussions, watching those discussions, and learning about various of different experiences. So, once again, thank you so much for invitation, and hopefully, we'll have some interesting discussion today.
Thank, thank you. So in this episode, we'll be talking about the HIST framework. First, we'll start with Ruslan's journey to QA Mentor and creation of HIST. Then we'll discuss what is HIST and why it's worth adopting. Next, we'll talk about the common mistakes teams tend to make. After that, we'll discuss how to make the most out of HIST. And to conclude, we'll share some level up insights on advice to level up with this tool and beyond. So without further ado, let's get started. Ruslan, can you share your journey? I think you started about 30 years ago as a junior tester. Can you share your journey from junior tester to CEO and community lead?
Absolutely. I started 28 years ago, to be precise, almost 29 years ago, as a junior tester in New York City. After graduating from Baruch College with a bachelor's of computer information system, I had very hard time finding a job after graduation. I was rejecting. I was going from interview to interview, and for some reason, I got rejections. And one company, a startup company in the advertising industry, offered me a job as a junior tester. At that time, I have absolutely no clue what, junior tester role is. They explained a little bit, and I said, well, why don't I try, since I don't have many options on the table? And since that, journey started, and I fall in love in testing right away. I really enjoy it. It was more fun for me to break systems than build systems, identify issues, problems, complaints. I was like a pain in the neck in those companies who always complain about something. And that's the reason why maybe developers don't really like testers, or had always some tensions with the testing groups, but the idea is to deliver quality products. So, I never had any bad relationship with development team, because I thought that we all doing the same job, bringing the same purpose, building quality, into the applications. The I spent another, a few years in another startup companies. I started with the startup companies, and the idea behind that was that I was interested to understand everything around startups. I was interested to be involved in many different discussions, because in the small organizations, you see various different areas. You see the sales process, you see the account management, you see the business side of it, where you have a chance to talk and discuss and understand the business needs as well. So I learned a lot initially working at the startups. Then I, switched this into the financial industry, and I joined number of financial institutions, big banks, HSBC banks, where I play a very big role. I was managing testing center of excellence there, along with one of the flagship projects at that time. It's called HSBC Net, which consists of 120 applications on the umbrella of HSBC Net, managing multiple different testing teams around the world globally. Fantastic experience. Very challenging, very tough job, but I learned a lot there. Then I moved into the background screening industry, and I start helping the company which calls Sterling Background Screening company, and we build the technology there which helped organization to grow tremendously. Now Sterling is over $1 billion in evaluation. I was hired as employee number 36 and practically built and helped to build and assure the new platforms which was built at that time. And then I went to Citibank after that 6 years journey. Spent a number of years there managing payments system, WordLink application in particularly, and helping on many different initiatives and helping to establish testing center of excellence there. And then I said, I want to try something on my own. I want to see how I would be able to succeed building my own company. And, at that time, I started QA Mentor. I started very small with just a vision of help organizations around the world to mature their testing practices, establish best practices, conduct QA audit and process improvements exercises, QA transformations. And then I realized that customers needs much more than just strategic support. They were looking for specialized services around various of different areas: automation, performance testing, security testing. And then we decided to start outsourcing, and we started operations in Ukraine. Then we started the operations in India, and that's how QA Mentor takes some traction. We started growing year after year, very rapidly and quickly. And something which I didn't think become a pretty global big organization around the world, spans across multiple different geographies. We have offices and representations of our teams across multiple different countries around the world, and we continue expansion into the different areas. A few years ago, we started operations in Nigeria, which was very interesting, and I was very happy to start that area there. We'll continue. We have some plans on expanding in multiple different regions. We wanted to be across the board. We wanted to be next McDonald's. I always joke to say, well, McDonald's all over the world, and we want to be all over the world to help companies to mature their QA, to achieve good quality results, good processes across the board. And we want to train and guide. This has been since day one. We were training, guiding, sharing knowledge, sharing expertise, free of charge. In some cases, we have some very inexpensive e-learning courses. We always wanted to make this affordable, that companies, individuals, quality assurance engineers would be able to adopt some of the best practices, which we have based on our experience.
So, so this is the philosophy behind the name QA Mentor, right?
That's the whole, yes, it's all in DNA, mentorship, guidance, strategic support, training. That was all along. And that's the reason we started as, I started as one man shop at that time without really thinking and having much bigger vision into growing this into the massive, outsourcing company. It's happens sort of, I guess, by accident, if you wish. I didn't realize, or I didn't expect us to get to that levels. Obviously, the appetite is still here. We wanted to grow more. We wanted to accomplish bigger results. I mean, there is a lot of lead by examples company which we wanted to follow as well. So I guess we still starting. We didn't get things done yet, so there's a lot of hard work ahead of us, and there's a lot of aspirations to achieve really great
Yeah,
results.
yeah, I agree. And you're advising like Fortune 500 CIOs, CTOs.
Yeah, that's a major role there. I personally was involved in conducting over 120 transformation exercises where we did the audit, QA audit, overall software development lifecycle audit, DevOps, agile audits, and help organizations to mature their quality programs, QA processes, overall software development lifecycle. And there's a lot of support and help to senior level decision makers such as CIOs, CTOs from our internal process consulting group.
And what they often misunderstand about QA.
Oh, about QA. They think that QA is the cost center, where, in my opinion, QA is not a cost center. QA is strategic, actually, enabler of the revenue generation, retention, clients acquisition. Because with the quality software, you can adapt this to many many happy clients, and you can retain many existing clients not to leave your product or your application and go to the competitor. So there's a direct relationship to revenue generation, and it's not a cost center, which is only kind of investments without getting any return. UA quality assurance programs function definitely contributes to the revenue generation, and that's how people don't really think or understand. So that's the conception out there, that people think it's just expensive, it's just slow, it just delaying the whole process in terms of speeding and achieving time to market. Many decision makers have this false interpretation on quality even till now, even after 28 years me trying to spread the whole points about quality assurance and educate many people out there. I still see number of people, don't understand the real importance of quality and the work we do.
After so many years leading a QA, what made you believe a QA need more structure? And then you started HIST framework.
So his framework was not a marketing gimmick at all, as many people think and realize. And we saw this through some of the debates which I had
Yeah.
with some of the community members there. Right, I started and invented his a little less than a year ago. This was reflection actually to me looking at what's going on in our QA industry, where I saw that QA managers are getting eliminated. QA departments are getting eliminated. QA is basically looked at, nice to have rather than must to have, and the mandatory validation mechanism within the overall software development lifecycle. So I saw a lot of, decision makers were thinking that quality can be improved through the automation. And this is where the big disconnect is. Obviously, automation helping to speed up the turnaround time, helping to assist to move quicker and faster. But it's definitely not a major contributor to quality, which many, many people were very obsessed with. Every conversation which I talked to clients, they said, Ruslan, we need automation, we need automation. And I said, responded back, why do you need automation for? Can you be specific? Do you want to move quick and fast? Is it QA is a bottleneck right now? Or you have a quality problems in production environment? You have a defect leakage, you have customers complaints. What is it for? And most of them said, well, we need this to test quicker and faster. We need this, to assure that everything working fine and perfectly. And everybody were looking, it's some kind of magic. And truly, people didn't realize that automation requires hard work, requires support, requires maintenance, requires continuous investment. Automation is not a magic that, you build the automation framework and you automated your manual test case repository and it will serve the purpose for the rest of your life. It's not the case.
Yeah.
So, I start seeing this, and at that time, AI started to step in, where it's even changed completely the mindset, stating that now AI can do everything for you. And that's really, make me feel not upset. I was just really shocked how the industry perception and the mindset completely shifted from the human intelligence, where the human intelligence thinking process, judgments, certain things which absolutely need to be provided as part of the product evaluation, usability aspect, accessibility aspect, all of a sudden it's tried to be converted into the automation and rely on the feedback from the automation to determine the product stability. So I wanted to scream back through some kind of movement to fight back and say, guys, wait a minute, let's pause, let's stop, let's rethink where we're moving, and what directions we're taking now. And the answer to all of this, it was like a scream from my soul after so many years of trying to educate and now getting back to where I started, when people looking at QA as nice to have, not really important aspects. People view it as a button pushers or dummy data entrance, and really that's not the case. Now, at the same time, I think we as a QA community, as a QA experts, as QA professionals, contributed to this mentality, because many QA professionals start or stop thinking logically, stopped really trying to understand everything behind what they testing. Didn't use the judgment, didn't use, the common sense, didn't, uh, you know, kind of fight back when they see something is wrong in the requirements. They took requirements for granted and they expected that it's supposed to be implemented this way, right? So we start really thinking in depth across the board. And that's contributed to the situation where people viewed QA like, there's no value add. If you're not technically enough, what kind of benefits can you add to the product itself, right? So I wanted to explain through his that there's lots of strategies and methodologies which needs to be still applied utilizing human intelligence. And automation is not the saver, automation is not the solution to all the quality problems across the board. And that's the reason why it's triggered me to start talking, start socializing, start sharing the knowledge around his, because it's totally unique. It's not the same. Many people said, well, but exploratory testing or context driven is the same thing. And we had some kind of debates and disagreements where I had a number of articles specifically stating the differences, the major differences behind. And there's truly major differences behind. There's certain things which are similar, and I there's some similarities obviously there as well, but majority of the things is totally different, because it's needs to be disciplined practice. It shouldn't be a lot of flexibility added if you want to really achieve some really good results there. It's metrics driven. It's super important to make decisions based on the metrics. It's strategy driven. It's a discipline driven. You cannot just simply start testing without planning, without strategizing, without putting the test plan in place, the test cases in place, and jump in, and start exploring the application and doing exploration and testing that way. There's a lot of strict rules and guidance in order to achieve a really good results and success, which you have to play by, right? So that's essentially we start circulating a lot of articles, a lot of information. We're building as we speak a training, free training, to launch this for everybody who wants to incorporate and implement HIST in their organizations. I mean, he's been implemented throughout many years. He's been there. It's the best set of best practices. It's not something relatively new. It's just a combinations and collections of successes and also failures throughout my career, throughout 400 plus clients which we have, and thousands of projects which we completed. Success stories, failed stories as well. It's all combinations which materialized into this sort of framework, methodology, movement, um, yeah, or whatever you want to call it, something which should really make a wake up call for people who thinks that testing is not important anymore. Without the testing, products can still go live without any problems, without any issues. Automation might be much, much stronger and better proposition than the manual testing. The manual testing become trash all of a sudden by many, many different companies where they look at manual testing as
Yeah.
this is nothing. There's no skills requires to do these types of testing, right? And that's where I had to fight back, and I have to try to educate and explain that this is a mistake, uh, and try to do it through HIST. That's essentially why the HIST was born and what purposes it's actually trying to carry and implement for our industry and for all the decision makers who might be missing some key points on why manual testing, human judgments, human intelligence, human feel, and that human feedback is super, super crucial and super, super important for applications.
Okay. And just to be clear, in simple terms, can you define what is HASTE framework? Is it a framework, a mindset, a process, some principle you follow?
So HIST consists of framework and methodology. And it has a number of principles through the our manifesto. So we have the manifesto, same as Agile as manifesto, and some other schools of thoughts have some specific principles which we believe in. And I would recommend it's all available on the website. Obviously, we don't have enough time to go through
Yeah.
all of these principles out there, but there's very interesting principles which we believe in, and we're trying to live by them and adhere to them as we support various of different customers and clients out there. So it's a combination, it's a framework, it's a principles, it's a religion, and at the same time is a movement to make this wake up call for everybody else that don't be over obsessed with AI. Don't be over obsessed with automation. Obviously, those tools are important and they can be integrated with the overall process, but don't blindly rely on all of this in order to achieve really great results, because it's not all about defect free products. It's all about products which will bring benefits and solve business problems out there. Because you might have the application which is a defect free, but it doesn't bring value to the customers and clients. They're not leveraging all the features which were supposed to be built there. Reports does not provide information which you wanted to get and collect. But overall, everything works perfectly fine. So that's where the business knowledge, the business, understanding, the business rules understanding, the subject matter expertise behind the application and the business which you're testing in, it's super, super crucial and super, super important. And that's what this whole methodologies talks about, starting from requirements static testing, where we emphasizing and doing a lot of validations up front of the requirements, making sure that the requirements consists of all the information, all the details, all the acceptance criteria, all their alternative flows, all the field validation rules, because every problem starts with the poorly defined requirements. And excuses nowadays that it's agile and requirements are evolving and can be evolved. And that's where the problem is, where at some point of time, you have to freeze the requirements. You have to all agree collectively to what you need to build, or that feature, that functionality, and freeze them so everybody will understand what's the final state should be. So we paying a lot of attention and emphasis on the requirements verification and validation process, where we're identifying defects and problems at the requirements level, at the user story level, at the mock-up level, at the functional requirements level, at the um, architecture diagram level. All of this is evaluated up front to prevent issues and problems from occurring, at the end of the testing. So we start testing. Many people say, well, why would you start creating test cases without seeing the application? I hope you heard these types of statements. Uh, I believe strongly in this. You don't have to wait for the application to be built and start building the test cases after. You have to understand and analyze and kind of see that picture up front. Of course, certain things needs to be modified and changed because you're going to
Yeah.
see the applications and interfaces. You have to do some tune-up, but you don't need to waste time and start building test cases when somebody deployed the code,
Yeah.
the environment, and waste time. This is not rapid testing. This is not quick turnaround time. So you have to plan and do this due diligence up front. So there is a lot of different strategies built in, which might slightly be different from the typical traditional approach, or maybe some other approaches out there. But it's also have some really good practices which also common out there as well. I'm not saying here's this completely unique and nobody ever saw anything as such, but it's a combination. It's collections of different things with structure, with discipline, with metrics driven, with attention to serving the business purposes and mapping that relationship to the value add instead of the cost center investments. That's what HIST is all about.
Okay. And you also said, like, as a QA, we also contribute to this problem. Like, what are you fear, like, for companies or people who don't implement this mindset, for example?
Very simple. People start testing without truly understanding the requirements behind. They start clicking buttons and start entering defects, which uh, could be a cosmetic issues or minor issues, but not truly thinking about logical problems, right?
Yeah.
About the business rules problems, which absolutely need to be verified and validated. So that creates a gap where people feel that, oh, QA is only finding those little issues, those little problems, not
Yeah.
meaningful problems, always cosmetic issues. They're not thinking deep enough into identifying some crucial problems. And that's where, unfortunately, because people don't want to apply that human intelligence, truly understand every single functionality behind and the real purpose behind, they start, putting QA down in a sense of maturity levels where, you know, people, decision makers, things, well, if they will just find those little issues and cosmetic problems or maybe compatibility problems, they're not adding a lot of value to it. We want real problems. We want logical problems. We want calculation problems. We want to think as a user that, this report doesn't really provide with all the information which I need. It's not capturing all the details which I need, right? For example, or this analytics or this metrics or this dashboard does not really provide you the clear picture because you need this, and that, which was not captured as part of that dashboard calculation. You see, you have to act like this was built for you and you are the real user and you understand how you're going to apply this application to solve other people's problems, right? And the business in the business scenarios. So that's what is missing. Very often people are wearing just a testing hat, not a user hat, and identify issues and problems which are very, very relevant and does not bring a lot of great results. Or in some cases, people just testing the front end. They're not thinking about the back end, about the processing behind the scene, right? All of this, nobody testing the database layer of it. Nobody testing the integrations the proper way. Nobody testing the API, the performance, the security part. People are hitting the buttons on the front end, and that's what they call testing. And that's unfortunately, some of us in our QA industry doing that, and that's causing problems, to it. People saying that you can test without the test cases. That's also, I think, a problem because that shows you're not planning, you're not thinking. I mean, how can I try to figure out what's happening in your brain if I'm not seeing the output of what you're trying to verify and validate? We see in our communities people screaming, don't worry about test cases. I mean, there is no need for it. You see, I also kind of, I see the AI generating test cases as well. And I see more often people now rely on AI outputs and they don't want to think again. They don't want to think that AI might be missing some of the scenarios, some of the validations, some of the business rules validations. If AI generates thousands of test cases, doesn't mean that it's a comprehensive coverage. So you have to still think, you have to still again, back to my favorite phrase, trust but verify, right? You cannot just blindly rely on this and say, oh, I got magically in 20 seconds 2,000 test cases, and then I will start executing, and that will solve all the quality problems there. So again, all of this maps back to the human intelligence, which I like to talk, not brag about it, but emphasize this, that we should not lose this. We should not completely eliminate this. It should be a part of our arsenal. This is the tool. Human intelligence, if you think it's a tool for a tester. Without it, you cannot survive. And it cannot be substituted by any other tools or technologies such as AI. You have to keep this active all the time and be on alert, right?
So we talk about a lot of common mistakes QA tends to make without human intelligence. We talk about test cases, small issues, relying too much on AI. How about test automation without human intelligence?
Test automation without human intelligence not possible. Again, because whatever it's automate, it's an input. You need to be comfortable, right? You would not believe how many companies contacting us and they said, Ruslan, we have this 2,000 test cases, set of regression test cases, automate them. My first question is, how do you know that the coverage in those 2,000 test cases is sufficient? Can you prove that it's sufficient? How do you know that? And they start stretching their head. They said, we think it's valid. I mean, we have people who put this together, so I assume it's correct. And I see, and how do you know nothing is missed from there? Because you're going to rely your automation on those set of test cases, right? And you're going to base and judge because you're going to get the results back. And if something is outside of those test cases, which not automated anymore, there is possibility for the defect leakage, right? So how do you know that whatever you have here consists of everything what you need to verify? And then they start thinking, oh, I don't know. Maybe you can tell us. And I said, well, in order for us to tell us, we need to truly understand the requirements and every feature in order to understand where the gaps are in your test case coverage. You see, but everybody thinks that they have this magic regression testing coverage. But do you know that without human intelligence, automation will not help because you can still operate without automation and still be able to structure your regression testing coverage the proper way based on a risk-based approach, based on the impact analysis, based on evaluating, fixes and what the damage those fixes can do to the application, based on the isolation of the test cases, which has nothing to do with the code changes, and then you don't need to execute them at all because it's considered to be a waste of time. So all of this is your understanding. Now, nowadays, there are tools which can do and predict impact analysis. They can tell, looking at the code, where the problematic areas are and actually select and choose your regression test cases for you. But again, do you trust 100% machine to do this predictive analysis, or you should still spot check and really try to verify and feel comfortable about that selection before you blindly execute what AI tell you to choose as part of the regression testing, right? So again, regardless what you do, it gets back and will always be mapped to the human intelligence, aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because any matrix can be game. Like if you want numbers, I can give you 10,000 test cases, but doesn't mean anything.
Means nothing. Really, the numbers means absolutely nothing, right? But justifying the number that is indeed covering everything, and you have ability to trace this back, and you have some kind of evidences that all the angles are covered, then you feel comfortable. But just saying I have 5,000 test cases, well, that's a good number. That sounds sufficient enough, will not provide you any guarantees, right?
What advice do you have for junior testers who are quiet during requirement sessions, who don't voice their concern or agree?
This is excellent question, right? I mean, this is the problem not only for the junior testers. I see this problem across the board for the senior testers as well. They like going into the movie to watch the movie, or going to soccer game to watch the soccer game, and they're kind of passive there and just monitoring and watching what's going on. They have to be active participants, right? This is the most important and crucial meetings when you discussing the requirements, because that's the time when you need to build understanding whether what is getting built will truly solve the problems from the business users, right? That's number one. Number two, if everything what is discussed in those requirements review sessions or elaboration sessions or whatever you give a name, and nowadays there's 20 different names for those types of sessions, you actually will make sure that there is no ambiguities, meaning that we don't know, we don't want developers to start guessing. I always like to give this example of my pool. I built a pool in Florida, and for me, in order to build a pool, it took me 6 months of research and investigation and looking at the different pools in order to build my level of understanding of requirements. And then when I had the basic idea what type of pool I wanted, what types of features I wanted there, the shape, the colors, and everything else, I went in and I hired a pool company and I gave them that requirements. Then they convert these requirements into the visuals, 3Ds, and the technical specifications. Then I spent 3 to 4 weeks and identify 76 problems which they gave me in the requirements, and I requested them to correct those problems. They did this. They sent me back everything. I looked again. I found another 12 problems. They did again. I found 3 problems until multiple iterations was there, and then I felt comfortable. And then when the implementation started, I also had to monitor there, right? So you got to be involved in the process. You should not treat requirements or whoever is explaining you that this is the requirements as a Bible and take it for granted. You can challenge. It's okay to challenge. It's okay to, say, well, are you sure about this? Or maybe it should be this way. Are you 100% sure you want to implement it this way? You got to really challenge that back. You don't have to be shy about it, but in order not to be shy, you need to understand really, truly what the discussion is. Very often people don't get it, then don't understand it. They just there as a passengers. They said, we'll figure out when we will see the application. No, you don't need to see the application. You need first to understand. I never,
Yeah.
when I built my pool, yes, I saw similar types of pools, but before that, I knew exactly what I wanted, right? And that's resulted me at the end of the day, I was very happy with the project. The pool was beautiful the way I wanted. And if somebody will ask me, Ruslan, would you build a different pool this today? I would say no. I like the way it is. I would not change a single thing to it. That's the level of similar applicable to the application. Users or anybody who builds this, they should say, well, I would not change the interface. I would not change this functionality. I just fall in love in this. This is thus what I want, and it brings me so much benefits and efficiency to my day-to-day activities that I love this application. You see, love is one thing, bug-free when there is no problems, that's totally different thing. Again, it could be 0 defects, but the application brings no benefits whatsoever because it was built without intelligence. It was built without truly understanding the business pain points which this application was trying to solve. And that's the big. So my recommendation to junior testers: don't be shy. actively participate. You all smart guys. You all have human intelligence. That's the God what gave you. Think, use your judgment. Think, creatively in terms of whether it will serve the purpose. Every single user story or feature or functionality or enhancements, it does need to bring some benefits. You need to understand it, whether you will be happy receiving these benefits or you will not be happy, and you have a chance to change it towards your to please you, right? If you are a really smart user, you can say, well, I would prefer this way. And let somebody else, a product manager, a product owner, right, a business analyst, reconfirm or check with the stakeholders or check with the business. Maybe there is a point to it. So don't afraid to bring up those things where you disagree with the requirements. That's our job. That's the QA job, not to be a pain in the neck, and really revalidate and double check and triple check to make sure everything is correct. Otherwise, requirements are wrong. We have a domino effect and we have tons of problems, tons of issues. We then will delay the release. And then everybody will say, oh, QA finding all those issues, they are the bottlenecks. They are the evil team or, entity which slowing things down. Let's eliminate them and we'll never have a problem. We will release things without them much quicker and much faster, but with a lot of problems. That's the exception, right?
I totally got it, especially the pool analogy, because it's cheaper to fix something on paper than when it's already
Absolutely.
built.
It will cost you to change the requirements. It will cost you literally nothing. It's 5 seconds to change versus fix the code, build the new release, deploy, start testing, do revalidation, do regression testing. You change this, you break that. Look how much money you're spending and spinning your wheels for nothing. Instead of let's think, let's not, run quickly. Let's not decide maybe that will be working fine. No, no, no. Let's all agree on that requirement which we're building. Let's all agree that this is exactly what business needs and wants. Let's get reconfirmation from them once again before we start doing it. It saves you tremendous amount of dollars. People don't get it that, if you're not serious at that time and you think, oh, okay, somebody else will think for me, you're going to spend and redo things and redesign things. And that's tremendous dollars which getting lost. And I see this across the board all the time because people not serious about stabilizing the requirements. And that's where QA and part of the HIST methodology, this is very important emphasis. This is what a true shift left strategy is and prevention mechanism is to start the proper, quality gates throughout software development lifecycle. This is one of the important quality gates which needs to be there all the time, whether it's an old-fashioned waterfall or agile or any other methodology, which development team or Scrum team is following. You gotta spend and concentrate on this area first, and turn your brains and think at those meetings. Wake up, don't use your phones and be distracted, but truly think, and that will solve tremendous amount of problems down the road.
Okay, so we got what HIST is and the problem it solves. Now, can you tell us, if we are interested, like how do we get started implementing HIST?
So another excellent question. How to get started to implement HIST? The whole purpose of implementing HIST was that I don't need to be around to teach you how to implement HIST, right? You should be able to adopt HIST yourself, right? So what we're doing now it's kind of, there are certain things you can apply immediately, like static testing, which is requirements verification and validation. We have we have actually the e-learning course, how to do and identify gaps and issues in the requirement itself. Just implementing this is part of HIST. This is part of the HIST methodology already, right? This is the best practices. So what we're going to do is we're going to share the free course for everybody on exactly how to apply things, how to apply certain templates, how to apply certain tools, and start, truly implementing those best practices where some people say there's no best practices. There are things which are working and there are things which are not working. If things are working, to me, it's the best practices because I was able successfully, if you're boxing, right, and you have some strategies doing the boxing, right, and you always win through those strategies, this is your secret weapon. This is your best practices, right? So when somebody say there is no such a thing as best practices, I don't understand. There are certain things which will provide you superior, you know, superior quality as a baked in from the beginning and throughout the whole metrics. It's another area, but smart metrics, not stupid metrics. So there is the whole types of metrics which I invented to calculate, which will bring benefits and truly understand your impact as a QA function into the revenue generation. I'm mapping this to the business value. There's no such a thing exists on the internet, which actually shows how your testing maps to the business value, how much savings you can actually achieve and how much money you can, lawsuits you can prevent by identifying issues at the accessibility level, at the security level, and many others. So we'll continue to educate. We will have sessions, we will have webinars, we will have seminars. We're already having them where we're going to invite a lot of people over, and whoever wants to apply the same best practices which worked for us, which worked for me, obviously based on mistakes as well. We're not going to share to say, go and do this way where we failed, right? We're going to show the best practices there. They all free to adopt. Whoever doesn't want to adopt or think that they good to go without this, perfect. We are happy. If something working right now for you with your existing methodologies, this is great. I will applaud you for this. This is awesome. Then you don't need to do any changes. But companies where they're struggling with the quality, where there's issues, where there are problems, then you can apply this for free. You don't need to pay money for it. I said this and I can repeat this again, where people thought that we're doing this for the money. We're never going to charge money for HIST. This is all free education. We want to save this profession. We want to save this industry. And that's the reason why we're doing. If I wanted to do this for money, we would make a lot of money already, by this time. But this is for us, for the community to be able to get respect back. A lot of people don't respect us anymore, don't respect QA. They think anybody can do it. It's nothing. I want to get that respect back. I want to help the community to get that respect back. So it's on us. I cannot do it by myself. That's why I want other people to prove that with those methodologies, we can gain respect back because we can get quality back. That's the thing. That's kind of the
And
thought
beyond,
process.
okay, and beyond technical skills, like what human skills do you think QA should develop to be better?
Human things. So again, the judgment. This is super, super important. You have to judge. You have to be a judge constantly. You have to think. You have to be, to have an investigator mindset. You have to see whether certain things might work or might not work, but you have to go deeper. You have to me, QA is also like a chess game. You have to think what's going to happen if this will not work. What types of risk can materialize if that will not work for the user, right? You have to bring that. You got to be a risk mitigator as well as you wish. You have to have a lot of creativity. You have to have a lot of imagination because all of these scenarios, all of these possibilities coming from your head, from the imagination. You have to be very disciplined. You have to be very organized, right? You have to be truly unbiased to see, and understand whether you're doing a good job or not. And that can only be done by measuring yourself through the metrics. You don't have the blood pressure or thermometer, right? Those are the metrics behind which you need to showcase. This is the fruits of my work, right? What is the defect leakage as a result of my testing, right? Is anything was missed and we got complaints in production? Why people don't measure defect leakage the proper way? They don't even know the formulas behind. I mean, 90% of the people calculating this incorrectly. I had multiple YouTube videos and I gave the templates and the formulas. All I say, just plug the numbers in and just start calculating this, because this is fruits of your work. This is what the company need to see why they're investing into quality. And this is just one indicator. There's multiple other metrics which are so important to showcase, not to brag about how good you are, but just to show we spending tremendous amount of time and effort. We're working super hard, and this materializes into the success. And this is how we measure our quality success. That's it. What I'm asking. People think, oh, metrics, you micromanager, this is for micromanagers. No, I don't need this to be a micromanager. I need this to understand if we're progressing, if we're doing a good job or not. If we're not, I need to understand where we're not doing a good job to fix this, to come up with the action plan, right? Without knowing, without measuring things, you clueless. Do you understand? So when people say, don't worry, metrics is, it's for micromanagers. Metrics is evil. Metrics is garbage. Metrics is nothing. I don't understand those people, to be honest with you. And I mean, I'm not getting angry. It just, I don't understand how they might say even this. Do you understand? Because you got to
Yeah.
measure things. If you want to get better, you got to understand. You got to measure, how you going to get better? How you going to get stronger if you're not going to measure things? If you're not going to, check your cholesterol level or, sugar level or blood pressure without you would say, I feel good, then I'm good. No, 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 no. You might not be good. You might not think. You got to do some tests. You got to do more things just to be sure, right? That's the reason why we have to do this diagnostic. So routine health check, going to the doctors and take the blood test and all of these things. Without it, it's like you're clueless. You will not see early indicators about some potential problems which you might have. And that's applicable. This is the analogy to testing as well. So I'm sorry, but I don't understand people who screaming that metrics are not good and it's evil and it's confusing and stuff like that.
So you said you have different resources.
Right now, there is a lot of material already available, including the framework, including the methodology, including the manifesto. There's tons of information there already. There's tons of information which I wrote as a post, as the articles, and I wrote them, not ChatGPT. That's a big ChatGPT make it my English better and improve this, my broken English, right? But the ideas behind this is all based on HIST. And I created, you would not believe, tons of documentations, different types of strategies across the board. I mean, if I'm gonna teach this, I will probably need 2 lives because there's a lot of things in there. But we don't need to teach everything. There are certain things which I will have specific webinars and seminars out of some of those documents, because the document is not just for the reading. Document is the way to implement things and the way to operate and truly understand how to do it, right? So I'm going to teach and I'm going to train this throughout. It's just, I've been super busy, and now with AI, I wanted to create HIST for AI specifically on how to test it as well. So I'm working on that part as well. So there's a lot of things in there, but at the same time, the core thing is to save our profession from disappearance, right? And that's why more people who would truly understand what's the intention of HIST and how HIST can really save our profession and industry from failure, it will be our promoters to, to save to save this profession, because this profession, on the edge of disappearance. I guarantee you this, and this is not trying to scare anybody or trying to make this bold statement. That's what I see, and that's based on my metrics. I mean, we tremendously impacted. You would not believe how many people I let go in the last 3 years across the board. How many smart people who I would never believe that they will lose the job and will never be able to get back to the field. And that's the really evidence that, market
Yeah.
is moving away for some reason. Now, when AI is now stating that we can create a clean code without the defects, then it puts different mindset now to those decision makers to say, I even need automation. If AI will write a clean code, forget about the automation. We don't need automation at all. Before they said we don't need manual testing. Now they said we don't need automation. If AI will get it from the first time and create perfect software to begin with, then there is no testing. Do you understand that? That's
Absolutely.
the absurdity of this whole situation. So we have to do something. I still want to do something. I mean, I'm not getting younger, right? So whatever is left from my career, I want to spend to see this profession, shine again. So we got to make testing great again. That's what I'm trying to do. You know?
Yeah, that was my last question. Actually, what's your vision for QA mentor in general and for HIST in particular?
So vision for a QA mentor, unfortunately, we have to adapt to the AI because everything is AI, right? You got to be able to scale with AI. You got to be able to evaluate LLMs, AI agents, algorithms behind. You got to be able to test it because testing AI is totally different ball game than testing a traditional application. So we changing the whole strategy and approach and doing more oriented towards AI, but again, backed by human intelligence. There will be nothing without human intelligence in our organization where we're going to strictly just rely on AI completely blindly. So we transforming into the AI and human intelligence, drivers, because that's what the market needs. That's what the market demands. Now, in terms of our profession, in terms of our industry, my recommendation, and this is what I truly think and see, that because many applications will be built using AI and the quality will not be perfect there, it will spark demand for QA. Everything what is getting implemented in existing applications, there will be AI features which needs to be verified and validated. Again, we all know that developers don't have time to do that validation or perform that self-validation. So in my opinion, we should see better days for QA industry because the AI is everywhere. And truly AI verification, validation, it's super important because we're going to see tremendous lawsuits based on AI. A lot of companies will be get sued because certain things will be not properly tested in terms of the bias, in terms of hallucination, in terms of the other things. And that will trigger them to say, no, 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 no. We're afraid of those lawsuits and billions of dollars, damages of the reputation and the brand. We got to invest in quality again because we don't want that to happen. So I think AI will sparkle the need, but the time needs to go to see those big cases and lawsuits and penalties for people to wake up, for the decision makers to wake up, for the senior executives to wake up, to then start thinking, let's dedicate some money for quality again. We don't want to pay billions and billions in fines for that. Let's spend millions instead of billions in fines, but millions in QA and be happy with that approach. So that's what I feel and think and predict. Only time will tell who is right, who is wrong. But that's what I tend to believe, and I want this to happen. Truly want this
Uh,
to happen.
yeah, thank you. Before I conclude this, is there anything you want to add that I did not ask you?
I mean, you cover a lot. I mean, obviously, we can talk for hours and days straight. I just wanted to add and give a credit to you that you're doing a fantastic job. This is what market needs, right? Market needs a fair platform which will talk fairly about different things, about different challenges without any agendas behind,
No.
truly trying to solve critical issues which we all facing with, truly talk about the problems and pain points, forget about tensions in our QA community, who is right, who is wrong, this group versus that group. We all need to join forces together and fight for the better days for QA and save this profession together. That's my idea. And I think you're doing this very nicely. You're inviting
Thank you.
people from different camps, from different schools of thoughts, with different perspectives. And I appreciate that and I like that, and thank you
Yeah,
to
thank you
you.
very
I
much.
really appreciate what you're
Yeah,
doing.
thank you, Ruslan. Thank you. It's been a very good conversation. I've learned a lot, and this message resonates a lot with me. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
For your time, for your insight. I know you're very busy, so it's a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely.
Uh, s- yeah. So in this episode, I will publish some links for people who are interested to know about more about HIST. I will share your website, qamentor.com, when there's all the trainings and materials. The HIST methodology, you have a document about what that is. And I'll also share your different LinkedIn links if it's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, anybody who wants to have questions, they can, connect me on LinkedIn, ask any questions. I always respond. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I try to
Yeah.
respond to everybody who needs help, and it's free. I never charge money for any advices or any help. So feel free to ask me questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you. This concludes today's episode of How to Test This. I hope you find this episode valuable. And if you did, you can share it to your colleagues and stay tuned for upcoming episode. So this is Mamadou, and this is How to Test This. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.